Evening, folks. One of the banes of my bloody life is I keep losing glasses, and my reading glasses have done a runner on me, which is irritating the crap out of me because I use them on the laptop. Makes it a lot easier to see your comments. The Dame Ednas don't necessarily do such a great job because I got to lift them all up. How you going? Oh, shit, I've made that worse. Give me a minute. Sorry we're a bit late tonight. Life, the universe and everything has been running fairly heavy the last few days and weeks. The injury that I suffered at the hands of the Thai assassin is recovering as best it can. Let me see. It's as good as it's going to get at the moment, I'm afraid. Haven't got my glasses squirty stuff here. Is recovering as best as it can at the moment. The rib is back in place, which is all good, and my back is feeling the best it's been in a couple of weeks. However, the tear that happened is still giving me a bit of trouble, if I'm honest. So rapidly and lovingly applying the iTerra wand at 3 o'clock this morning, if I'm honest, when it woke me up. So not the iTerra wand, the rib. Or that little bit of cartilage underneath it. So I'm having a few issues with that at the moment, and that's what's been dicking me around a little bit. There are some other things we're working on here in the background, which I can't go into great detail about yet, but we will in the not too distant future, and a lot of it is in part due to many of you and the contributions that you've made. Cass Smith was going to be on the show tonight, but Cass has unfortunately hurt herself. Well, actually, she didn't hurt herself. She was taking a dog for a walk. Dog got a bit excited and decided to go through a gate, and the gate wasn't open yet. The dog got through. Cass, on the other hand, didn't get through the gate, and has done some damage to her hand, her right hand, which is a pain in the bum. Well, particularly, I guess, if you want to wipe it and you're right-handed. But done a lot of damage there. So I don't know if there's a break involved in the hand or maybe tendon damage or could possibly be both, all sorts of things. So all love to Cass. She was at the hospital this morning and getting some more scans and x-rays done. So I haven't heard the upshot of all that. So fingers crossed for her today that all that didn't go too bad. She's had a hell of a year, poor thing. A couple of other major injuries. You might remember, must be going back 6 months ago, I suppose. She hurt her leg while she was at training one night, kickboxing, did some muscle damage. I think tore the calf right off her leg or whatever. But not to worry, I'll make an attempt at having a bit of a chat about what we were going to talk about in some part tonight at any rate. Have you noticed over the last 3-4 days in mainstream media, if you're looking in the financial media, you will have seen some reports that are coming out of assessments being made on Australian Stock Exchange listed companies. One of those reports has clearly stated that 75% of ASX listed companies are in deep, deep trouble when it comes to debt versus liquidity. And if one of those larger companies should fall, it will be a domino effect on the market and everything's going to come tumbling down. I don't pretend to understand the stock market or stock exchanges. Do not take any kind of financial advice from me. But there are large warning signs going out at the moment around the world and on the Australian Stock Exchange in particular. And 75% of listed companies, this report said, cannot meet their obligations if they were, if there was a margin call. These companies cannot meet their debts. So that is going to be a significant issue for folks. Of course, it's not a real issue if you're in gold and silver. And if you're going to be in gold and silver, of course, our friends at Ainsley Bullion, other people to go and talk to. The other thing that's worth noting in the financials over the last few days is that the top 20 big super companies in Australia are also badly underperforming. Got things going off here everywhere. And if you still have your superannuation in a big super company, then I'd really look at rethinking it. Once again, I don't give financial advice, but I would suggest that you give the team a call at Freedom Financial Solutions, or better still, email me here at carl@vofhq.com, and I'll send that through to Cass and the team, and they will be in contact with a questionnaire for you It'll make it very easy for you to decide whether or not you want to get your super out, or indeed if you can get your super out. You might be a bit like me and not have a great deal of super. Now, if that is the case, it's not necessarily ungettable, but you need to get into a group of other people and become a group self-managed super fund, so that essentially you want to be pulling out a total, or no less than, for a group sort of thing, I think it was about $140,000 or $150,000. So if there's 6 or 8 of you that got $25,000 or $30,000 each, and you band together, you can do that in your self-managed super fund. Then invest that in silver and gold. Now, just as an example, in not quite 12 months, a 1 kilo silver bar went from $979 to around $1,300 it is today if you were to go and buy one. Now, that's in under 12 months. I don't think there is a bank account that's going to give you that same kind of return. I don't think there is a super account that's going to give you a return like that either. Gold has also gone up significantly. So if you were to invest in a little bit of gold, I would probably lean more towards silver at the moment, because of everything that we've spoken about in prior shows, how silver is going to be used, or is used, in absolutely everything, and it has had its price suppressed unnaturally by the markets, the comics market in particular, and that's the one to keep watching. In the American markets, of course, when Wall Street goes, it'll all go. But we believe that the comics market will have something to do with the gold and silver explosion of price, so to speak, because that will be a lot to do with the calls that are placed on those companies to pay their debts, and they will not be able to have not just the cash to pay the debts, but they won't have the assets to pay the debts either. So nothing to back it up. All falls down. What does the world always revert to when there's a financial crisis? Of course, gold and silver, precious metals. So get some. That would be my advice to you. Don't take my advice as financial advice, but this is just from me to you. Laura and I had a discussion yesterday about Father's Day. By the way, happy Father's Day to everybody for yesterday, all the dads. Laura and I had a discussion yesterday. She wanted desperately to take me out for lunch for Father's Day, which was lovely, because if I'm honest, I don't think I've ever been taken out for lunch for Father's Day. So yesterday, given that she's got this new job and she's got a little bit of money in her pocket, she was very keen to take me out and do that. So as things turned out, I woke up yesterday morning, wasn't feeling terribly good. So we compromised. We didn't go out and have a big slap up lunch. And with the $40 or so that she would have saved on the steak that I would have had, I asked her to go online and buy a coin from Ainsley Bullion in her name and have it delivered. So that made my Father's Day, because that's her first real investment in it. So that would be my advice to anybody. If you've got a spare $40, or if you've got a spare, what was it? We looked the other night, $22, $23 for a half-ounce silver coin that Ainsley produced. They're the only half-ounce coin. It's not a coin, I beg your pardon. It's a round in the country, and a beautiful one at that. And have a look at the detail. Go online at ainsleyBullion.com.au and have a look at the detail involved in the artwork on all their coins. And if you are any kind of an artist, then I just want you to start thinking about what you might design if you had the opportunity to put something on a round of gold or silver. And keep that in mind, because in the not too distant future, we hope to give you the opportunity to share some of those designs with us, and potentially we'll see whether or not we can't get something made. But obviously you'll want to put a good bit of thought into it, and it's particularly Australian, very Australian flavour. So if you can come up with something better than a kangaroo, a koala, or an emu, then I reckon you might have half a chance. So there you go. That's just something going forward to bear in mind. But if you are any kind of an artist, a drawer, then yeah, keep that one in mind. Let me have a look down here. There's a few other things I was going to talk about tonight. Oh, I suppose September the 11th is a date that lives in infamy with many people, Americans particularly, but most of the Western world remember that date simply because of what happened in 2001, the bringing down of the Twin Towers in New York City. Now, last year, prior to Christmas, in one of the Donald Trump statements, he made a fairly, well, loud, broad, and big statement that you're going to love Christmas. And Christmas came and went, and, you know, while people might have got what they wanted for Christmas, we didn't really get what we really wanted, and that was an end to all this bullshit. So we were a little bit surprised about Donald Trump's, oh, you're going to love Christmas. Well, there wasn't too much to love about Christmas from that perspective. Or was there? It turns out, and I only found this out today watching another's video, which I tried to upload, but for some reason or other, it won't let me play it to you. In the Jewish calendar, Jesus was born on September the 11th. December the 25th has always been a pagan holiday, and the Catholics reinvented it, if you like, as Christmas Day, because it was an easy way of convincing the pagans, the other pagan religions, to come across and have another celebration. How hard was it to have a celebration? The Christmas, that whole story about Christmas is one we'll get into in another show. But September the 11th is the Jewish Christmas, or the belief of Jewish religion that Jesus was born on the real day of September the 11th. So that would make September the 11th Christmas Day. Interestingly, a number of executive orders that Donald Trump signed during his term between 2018 and 2020 that have been extended by Joe Biden until their proposed end date, which just happens to be September the 11th, 2023. A number of those, not all of them, but a number of them come to a conclusion on September the 11th, 2023. Okay. Which ones and how important are they? I've only been through two of them so far, and one of those in particular relates to troops and National Guard. The other one involves company holdings and structuring and taking control of assets. So I don't know, if you've got to extrapolate it, I would think that if you're ending, particularly the one that's taking property, you've got all the property. So there's no need to have that in place anymore. And if you are returning National Guardsmen to their homes, rather than still having them out on exercise, then you might think you don't need them anymore, or, you know, you don't need as many anymore. At any rate, it looks like on September the 11th, those particular executive orders from Donald Trump will come to an end. Now, what that means to the rest of the world is, I don't know. We've got September 23 coming up after that. That's Donald Trump's court date in Georgia. He won't be appearing in Georgia. He will be appearing via video link, one would suggest, from Mar-a-Lago or a secure location somewhere. But the other more interesting fact, for me at least, is that the entire Donald Trump Georgia trial will be televised live. So if Trump doesn't have to appear, and I believe most people will be appearing via video link, if Trump doesn't have to appear and he's, locked up inside Mar-a-Lago with the Secret Service, should he be found guilty at the end of this trial with the nation watching on? And I think you'll have to understand that that's never going to happen. He's never going to be found guilty with the nation watching on. This whole televised trial thing is so, and live, is so that the people who want to see him go down will see his defense in real time and see the evidence presented to the courts in real time, in a hope that it wakes them up. I think it'll just make them really angry that they were wrong, humiliated that they were wrong. They are going to just refuse to believe the evidence, full stop, even if the court does, at least for the first little while. That'll be their first reaction. But some will go over the top. Some might calm down and be a little more sensible. Fingers crossed. But they did say September, October, interesting times, always hard times for the markets. Well, this is a couple of other interesting little pressure points that are going to be added, particularly to September. They are ramping up the language of preparedness. So get yourself maybe up to a month's worth of food. It's only prudent to have, a little bit of tucked away, have some cash on hand, get what you need. You might need some batteries. The power might go out for a couple of days. There could be a few, if you've got power banks, make sure they're, charged up, ready to go, and only use them sparingly. There's all sorts of little things you can do to prepare, because one day it's going to happen. Now, whether or not we all live to see that one day, God willing, it's sooner rather than later. And I was speaking with John Wilson the other night, and he's been saying basically all year, we just have to live through this year. It'll be all done by the end of this year. I know. I've been talking to people, and I'm sure he does. I've got no reason to doubt John in any way. He is 100% of the belief that it's all coming to an end this year. I don't think it's all coming to an end this year. I hope to see some very big revelations so that, let's say, a large percentage of those who are still not awake have their eyes opened. I don't think we're going to get everybody in the first pass, and there will be those with humiliation resistance, who will be, pretty difficult to bring over to our side. But on the first pass of truth, maybe coming out of this court case with Donald Trump, then a lot more eyes will be opened. Maybe a lot more questions will be asked by those people. And what we have to do is remember, when they come rushing into our groups, our chats, our forums, they're going to start thinking they've got news. Listen, look what I've just discovered. And they're going to run into people who've been doing this for 10 years or longer, 30 years. And we need to be tolerant. We need to let them know, yes, we know what you know. Hey, do you want to know a bit more? There's more than what you really know. Are you ready for the next red pill? And hopefully then we will unite as an educational army around the world, and the rest of those eyes wired shut will have the wire removed and their eyes open to the real truth that's going on. That's my hope, at any rate. And I hope that the Voice of Freedom can play a role in it. I noticed that John, God love him, has reached out to an Irish broadcasting, online radio, Freedom Broadcasting channel over there. The Voice of Freedom are in the process right now of setting up an online radio station. We are, as you know, we've been working on a company structure. That company structure has been figured out. Some people have got behind us and got involved with us in quite significant ways, and have helped us get to a point where we can now seriously start looking at putting this radio station together. I am going to be doing something as well on Rumble, but I'm pushing the boundaries in a lot of areas. So we've had to go and get a little bit of advice. So we are going to be a little careful about what I do on Rumble with regards to online radio and music, but we are figuring our way through that minefield, and hopefully I'll have something for you to look at while you listen as well. So we'll see what happens. But that is being worked on currently, and bank account is currently being set up, and once that bank account and details have been sorted out, we'll be able to pay our access fee into the hosting servers that will host the radio station. And from there, it's pretty much just a matter of me getting ready to go. So if you want to be part of our radio station launch, I need your requests. I'd like to do a top 500 request show. So the first 500 songs we play are requested by you folks. And you can do that simply by recording a little something for me saying, "G'day, I'm Mary from Townsville, and I like Ted Mullery Gang, Jump in My Car." Wow, there's a throwback. How many like that? Now, this one that just came off the top of my head, but I happen to like Australian rockers, and Ted Mullery Gang was the first band I ever saw live. I think I was about 8 at the time. And the second band I ever saw live, who TMG was supporting at the time, was Hush. And about, got to say, 20 years later, I was lucky enough to have Ted Mullery in a studio on the Gold Coast. He came in to voice a commercial. And what a gentleman he was. We had a couple of hours together while he did this ad, and wound up singing a few songs for us. Still reckon one of the best songs he ever wrote was Jamaica Rum. But anyway, God rest him. He's another one that's passed away. But I can tell you, you will hear a bit of Ted Mullery on the radio station. You will hear a bit of Supertramp. I'll give you an idea. Our radio station library will consist of a record library known as the Greatest Songs of All Time. There's 16,500 songs in there, only up until about 2021, though. So I don't have too much of the latest stuff yet. I've got to go and try and figure that out. But I will get that and throw that in. But there'll be plenty of great 80s, 90s, noughties, and, 60s, 70s, 80s, 90s, noughties to have a bit of a play with. So if you have a request, send it to requests@vofhq.com. And I will make sure we get into that for you. Let me have a bit of a look here. I did star some comments earlier because I didn't get time to say hello. Oh, hang on, let me just see who was first in the show tonight. Neglectful of me. Oh, Michelle, how are you, darling? Thank you for popping in early. Sorry, I was running late tonight too. Just, life, the universe and everything. Okay, I think I've got a few things going on here. Brett, I saw you've certainly filled up the chat tonight. Sorry, how's all this going? 2-3 years down the road and it's still worse than ever. Yeah, Brett, it's going to get worse before it gets better, mate. Not enough people's eyes awake yet. It's just how it is, unfortunately. How bad can it get? Well, they are saying be prepared to, lock yourself in your home and, stay off the road for maybe 10 days. I don't think everything's going to be beautiful straight after that point either. I think there's going to be a lot of confusion, a lot of pain, a lot of hurt, a lot of missing people, a lot of anger, because a lot of those normies who are completely unawake are going to be quite shocked to learn that many people that they love and adore, from celebrities, music, media, movie stars, all that kind of thing, they're going to be very upset that those people have been taken away and executed without any public trial, so to speak. I think what you will see in those movies that we're supposedly going to be seeing for 3 days straight will be a lot of, I was going to say public confessions, but they weren't public at all. They'll be in a room at Gitmo somewhere. But they will be confessions of these people of what they've actually done, so that they leave their former fans in absolutely no doubt of what they truly were. That should destroy any legacy of them. I don't know where it's going to leave our record libraries. And that's why it will be important in the next stage of what Voice of Freedom does to find new talent, some that's not signed up with the devil. So our next phase, which we are hoping to bring you many more details of in the next couple of weeks. We're still just finalising things, folks. We're still raising money to finalise a couple of things in particular. Right now, we're really at fuel point. So if you want to be able to really help us at the moment, we are on the fine line of getting this over the line or just falling short. So if you can throw a few bucks into the fuel bucket, I'm going to have some exciting news for you in the near future. How exciting it is will depend on how much fuel, I guess, we've got to go around and share the moment with you. There is a lot coming up. So Talent Quest, something that we want to do with Voice of Freedom is find new talent in Australia. It doesn't have to be singer-songwriter talent, but obviously, if you are a singer-songwriter, we're very keen on hearing what you've got and giving you an opportunity to present it to the country. We will have the equipment and availability to shoot you a film clip if you come to one of our events, and you can go away with that clip and do whatever you like, put it up on your whatever tubes and try and monetize it, do whatever you will. And as long as you give us the rights to play it and promote you on the Voice of Freedom on our channel, then we'd be happy to do that for you for nothing. So not often you get a free film clip, especially at a live event, just offering. So if you are that sort of talent, then be listening, because real soon we're going to start calling for you to let us know where you are, so we can at least come maybe somewhere close to you, and at least on the first pass. Also, I don't care if your talent is playing the spoons or doing bird calls or playing a piece of grass. Remember those guys, bit of grass between them? Just as a kid thing. Good blade of grass player. That was a big thing when I was a kid. If you could play a song on a blade of grass into your hands, you were pretty talented. So it doesn't really matter what your talent is. We want to have it. And think, if you like, think Red Faces. Very happy to do something like that. We want to start doing regular Saturday night live events, and I need a venue every Saturday night to go and do one. So if you've got something you'd like to share with us, then we would love to have your talent on our show. And if your talent is something you want to take seriously and move into music, or move into comedy, or move into whatever, then we will hopefully be able to give you a stepping stone without a contract. So just give your hand up, give you that first step that you need. That's what my goal is. So more news on that coming up. But yeah, get in contact, carl@vofhq.com, or Rachel, probably better for that one, rachel@vofhq.com, and just explain where you are, what sort of act you are. If you have a demo or something, not that it's really important, but if you do have a demo or something, then like an MP3 or a little MP4 of you playing somewhere, then please send that along as well. We're particularly interested in originals, but if you do covers, that sort of thing, I think we're going to be in a position where we have to pay some sort of fee, and I'm very happy to pay that fee. Don't get me wrong. Don't want to shortchange any artists, but I just don't think paying APRA fees gets to the artist. I think we pay a lot of people in APRA, and not enough goes to the artists. But be that as it may, it is the only way of really having access at the moment. So that's another fee that the company will wind up having to pay, and that'll be somewhere close to $1,000 a year, just so that we can play the music on this radio station that you want to hear. And if somebody wants to come on our talent show and play a cover of something, then you, Turd and Rumble, can't remove it because we will have paid a fee for it. So that's essentially what's been holding up the whole process at the moment. My understanding of APRA fees is more commercial radio based, and it's a dark art in commercial radio. I mean, nobody tells you how much they pay in APRA, and it was only not all that many years ago I found out why, and that is because in commercial radio terms, it's based on your income, your company's income. So not so much a problem if you own a small business. Most of you, if you've got a gym or a coffee shop or something, you put the radio on, you will have been contacted, and you probably pay something like $550 a year just so you can have the radio turned on in the shop. There's just another fee going to a bunch of shiny bums. That's all. Not going to the musicians much, which is very sad. So yeah, Brett, harder times on the way. And Sandy, oh yes, I see what you're saying. You got to agree. Yeah, absolutely. Things are going to get worse before they get better. John Farnham. Yeah, now there's an interesting one. That's been I have a personal opinion on this. I don't know that I should share it, but I have a personal opinion on this. So it's not dissimilar to what Sandy's feeling here. John Farnham didn't write You're the Voice. He just sang it, right? So it was given to him. It was a song that I think it was a song that Glenn Wheatley found for him, and somebody else had a go at it. John and the team just did a great version of it, a bloody wonderful version of it, and clearly changed the life of he and the Wheatleys very, very significantly. I want to say at the time, Glenn Wheatley had mortgaged his house to produce the album. So, or double mortgaged his house to produce the album. And Farnham had put everything he had into it, which wasn't much because he'd been bankrupt. So, yeah, they put a lot into it, but they don't actually own the song. They do own, I guess, his version of the song. And I'm not sure that John has really thought this through. If he has thought it through, then it's more an indication of which side of the fence he's on and an indication of the success that he's had. This decision to be that unthinking, to be that careless with what would have been his legacy song, now I think is, well, true to form. If you follow the advice that we've been hearing for years, those that comply, those that tell, those that help, will be allowed to have their legacy survive. Those that don't will have their legacy torn down. I'm getting a feeling that's kind of what's happening here, because I don't think John's the kind of bloke that would ordinarily have leaned into this argument and allowed this to happen. But he's being advised by whoever he's being advised by these days, and they may have ulterior motives. Let's just say that. But I think he's lost a huge amount of fans. Apparently, they've had to shut down comments on his Facebook page about it. So he's very aware he's pissed off a huge portion of his audience. Whether or not that makes any difference to him now or not after his recent surgery and now his recovery, which is, from all accounts, going very well. But is he going to be able to sing again? Well, not likely. And he's in his 70s. He's probably not likely to do another farewell tour. Brett, another comment from you. You've smoked your whole life. Medical cannabis is next level. Not in terms of getting high, but in terms of medicinal qualities and pain relief with Big Pharma. Yes, I've heard the same thing. I've had that reaction from probably half a dozen people that I was surprised to learn are on medical marijuana for pain relief. A lot of chronic, particularly back pain relief. And it seems to be terribly, terribly effective. So I don't know. What can I say? I've got comfrey oil and an itera wand. And I don't know that the lungs at the moment or the rib thing can do with the coughing. And still not doing. I'm not dealing with coughing terribly well. All power to him. I love it. Very good. I have heard the medicinal properties are absolutely spectacular, though, and people with Parkinson's disease who've got the shakes, that CBD oil, very effective for that. But I watched a video of a guy who took like 2 tokes on a joint, and he could barely put the joint in his mouth, but took 2 tokes on a joint, and 10 minutes later, all of his shaking had stopped. He was lying on a couch, and he sat up, got up, walked around, burst into tears. It was the first time he'd been able to do that in 10 years without shaking. First time he was able to pick up and have a cup of tea without shaking. So, yeah, it's impressive stuff. And important to know that the hemp business is different to the cannabis business. And yes, it is hard to teach oldies the difference because, well, they were brought up, they were told just how evil these drugs were. You know, cannabis was a gateway drug. You have one toke on a joint, the next thing there'll be a needle in your arm. You know, that's how I was brought up. That's how it was, demonized, not necessarily from my parents. It was more through the schools and the attitudes of the day. Oh yeah, no, that's awful stuff. You get on that, you go straight to heroin. That's how it is. I don't know that is the case. I'm sure there are some weak-minded souls who do progress up the ladder, but I know plenty of people who've been smoking dope all their life, and that's all they've ever smoked. Don't feel the need to go and take this, that, the other, whatever the hell. It's just nature's way of keeping them calm. Somebody put it to me once, so God love them. Just having a bit of a look. Sandy, what are you saying here? Things are a bit asleep down your way. The local post office, yes, pamphlets. Yep. So I think any government. Oh, look out! The dog's found a rat. Any government or government contracted organisation is going to be covered in this yes stuff, which is yes, disgusting, but also illegal. The government can't pick sides in this referendum, but it's funded the yes vote to the tune of over $30 million. And I don't believe it's funded the no vote to anything. Or maybe they've just recently decided to stump up some money toward it. But there might be some money, but there's no effort. Also, Peter Dutton, oh God, let me bring up this. Peter Dutton, that rather interesting piece of shit that is calling himself the Liberal Party leader these days, has decided that he's going to have another referendum if this Indigenous voice to the Parliament fails. Why? Why would he flag this? Why would he bring this up? Why would he even consider it, given the polls now reflect that the majority of Australians in every state do not want anything to do with this referendum or this yes argument or vote? Why would this idiot say, oh, we're going to have another go if this one doesn't get up? We've already had Albo Sleazy tell us that if it doesn't get up, if the no vote wins in the referendum, as it should, given the polls, but we all know what the polls are like, so don't get lax. Don't think, oh, somebody else will vote. There's enough people out there voting. I don't have to go that day. I don't think we can afford to sit back. Unlike Darren Bergwerf, who is of the opinion that we shouldn't be voting at all. And I have no doubt that if we could convince the majority of people not to turn up, both to this and to any other election day, it would make a significant dent in the government and the opposition's plans going forward. It would show the country has essentially put forward a no confidence vote in anybody that had their name on the ballot to try and lead the place. Now, that be that local, state, or federal politics. So the argument does have merit, but we need to get to a point where we can sway most people to do that. And even if that were the case, they would find most people and they would take the vote on those that did bother going out, and we would probably lose. So it's a conundrum. At this point in time, I'm definitely putting my hand up to vote no, and I'm hoping you're the same. I'm hoping you can convince some others, because God knows there's a lot of others that need convincing. I did put in a couple of other little tidbits in here this evening that I thought I might like to play you. There was something that's sort of made me. I was sitting down yesterday looking at a packet of cigarettes, and thank you to everybody who is advising me on my cigarette smoking and all of that. I appreciate your thoughts and your inspirational thoughts at times, and some of your rather interesting techniques for stopping smoking. I appreciate that. So I'm going to show you a picture that if you're not a smoker, you probably haven't seen, but if you are a smoker, you'll be very familiar with. This is one of the pictures that goes on a cigarette packet It is designed to try and stop you from smoking or turn you off from it. Poor old Brian there died aged 34, and the picture in the corner there is Brian 10 weeks earlier, where he looked quite fit and healthy. I think there was some problem about Brian's imagery being used here, because it wasn't lung cancer that killed Brian. It was kidney or liver failure or some other catastrophe. I think the family eventually got an award payout, but they still use poor old Brian's photo. Now, they put these photos on packets of cigarettes in the hope that it warns you that you could die a really nasty, horrible death if you partake of that product. So my question is, why don't we start putting faces from the forest of the fallen and demanding that they are put on brochures before people go in for this next round of jabs, which is obviously coming in the not too distant future? They're going to be pushing very hard for this new pandemic bullshit. And like I say, be aware of the KISS concert at the MCG on Grand Final Day. Super spreader event, okay, coming in from America. So watch out for things starting to fire up in America in this regard in the next few weeks. And then, of course, just before they lock down America, KISS will be on the plane and out over here, and their crew. And bugger me dead, somebody there will get sick, and they will have gone to the MCG, and 100,000 people come from all over the country, some places all over the world, for that particular game. There's your super spreader event. So be aware. Do not comply. You know, if you're going to comply, you just. I did see that there was a question. I'm not sure if I. Here we go. Shelley, I think this was your question. The next jab, a killer or saline? If it's a killer, where are the white hats? A lot of people are going to take it, and a lot are going to die. All they say is it's a war, there's going to be casualties. Well, yes, Shelley, you are 100% on the money. The next jab I have heard is going to be a double dose. They are going to be aiming particularly at the elderly that they've missed so far. Yes, they will be encouraged, because winter is coming up in America. They'll be encouraged to get this extra new booster for the new COVID variant. And that's probably enough to get me kicked off YouTube now that I've mentioned that. But anyway, that's what their plan will be, to get the older folks. Now, we've heard that that's a double strength. That will happen here in Australia too. If they're true to form, we would expect that to be, beginning to be rolled out by March next year. And before winter happens, all the oldies will be very, very highly encouraged to go and get another squirt in the shoulder. Where are the white hats in this? Well, the white hats are the ones who are doing everything else to try and wake people's eyes up to the fact that you don't have to go and do this. You do not have to comply. And let me just find, it's not there. Right. So there is a Kiwi, the Kiwi Prime Minister has come out today, I believe. I haven't sent the vision over, but the Kiwi Prime Minister has come out today, or in the recent days, when asked by the media whether or not compensation would be paid to people who were mandated out of jobs or, coerced to stay into them and got vax damaged after acquiescing. He made it very clear that it was his belief that nobody was made to do anything, and that they made the decision themselves, which is 100% true and correct. They did. Even if you were coerced into doing it, you made that decision to go forward. And that is what they will rely on. Doesn't matter the pressure that was put on you. Doesn't matter the reasons why you acquiesced. It doesn't matter. You made the decision that for whatever reason you wanted to go to the pub, you wanted to go be able to go and have dinner out, you wanted to go and see your nana, you wanted to do whatever. You made the decision to get it done. Now, coercion doesn't come into it. That's a whole different court case. And I don't think the government, any government in the world, will have a leg to stand on when those, cases come. Big Pharma will not have a case they can present that's going to stop them paying out billions and billions and billions and billions of dollars. Speaking of mRNA, we all thought the M stood for messenger. That's what we'd been told. That's what the science said. Turns out that's not the case. Turns out that the M stands for modified RNA. So, yeah, not real flash. Thank you, MSE. I appreciate that. Let's go back to our live comments. Thank you, anybody and everybody who throws in for a sticker or chooses to donate to Voice of Freedom. We've just got a little bit bigger, and thankfully, with Cass Smith's help, we're going to be a lot more organised, and I will be able to present things in a much more, I hope, beneficial way to you guys, and I'll be looking for you guys to help me with content. So also something else to bear in mind is if you are a business that is involved in tourism, local tourism, or you are producing something that can be mailed out so people can buy it online. If you are producing something and the mailing out thereof is not too significant a cost, we might have a way to help promote your business coming up very shortly too. One of my goals is to try and help my place grow across the country. And with my place, there are a lot of businesses that are involved because the people in my place own businesses. So I want to help you folks. Because there is a huge public that is very keen to support businesses like yours and their own, because we are a big family at the end of the day. And this will be one way we can show just how big we are. And if you've got a product that you make and sell and you're happy to post it out from wherever you are to wherever our audience or listener decides they want to buy it from you, then we can help increase your sales every month. And that is my goal, to help raise everybody's business, raise your profile, and hopefully help raise a few shekels that you might trade into a bit of silver or gold and protect yourself going. That would be my little bit of advice. Not financial advice, just advice on gold and silver. But if we can help you in that regard, that is the goal. So we're not going to charge you 2 arms and 3 legs to do this. In fact, fuel money. That's really where we're at. We want to be traveling as much as possible, and there are some very interesting places that we're going to be going. We've been invited to, including today. Craig Aldridge has sent me a note, and I'll talk more about this in the coming days. But coming up from, interestingly, again, September the 11th, there'll be a new meeting happening near Uluru. It is a large group of elders are making their way there from across the country. They are having a yarning circle. They are painting a canvas, which at this point, from what I understand, will stand above, in law, L-O-R-E, law will stand above the Uluru First Nations statement and will reflect the true feeling of the Aboriginal elders in this country, or the Indigenous First Nations elders of this country. Now, I'm going to get Craig on for a bit of a chat, and we'll learn more about that in the coming days. But that could be an event that we might turn up at if we can get our stuff in a line and get on the road in the next couple of weeks. It is an ongoing thing, this event that's happening at the well, I was going to say at the centre. It's not quite the centre. It's very close to Uluru though, and it'd be very good to catch up with a number of those elders and have some conversations there, particularly in the lead up to October 14 and the no vote, which we are going to be pushing extremely hard. So, yeah, if you can help, folks, we would love your donations at vofhq.com, or be a member. Some of the competitions that we will be running in the not too distant future will only be available to members, that being the nature of the gaming and how this has to work. So you can be a member from as little as $1.25 a week, and you can go right up to, well, whatever you really like. But every member gets an opportunity to be involved in what will be some pretty exciting competitions. We've already given away 13 ounces of silver, so it's going to add up. We might get a little bit creative in other things that we can give away, but we can only do these competitions with members. So if you want an opportunity to be part of that, and without letting the cat out of the bag, I can tell you that there are a couple of competitions that could change your life coming up, but you have to be a member. So start out $1.25 a week, and if you can, that'd be great. I mean, I think that's less than a cup of coffee a week. So you could also buy us a cup of coffee a week if you like. Some would suggest a can of Red Bull, but let's not go there. I do have something else I wanted to play you this evening. There was a video that came across my desk this morning, which intrigued me. We've talked a lot about the hidden history, the hidden past that we have, and things that we have video evidence for, including flying cars, electromagnetic travel, trains that hang from overhead systems that travel very fast, all dating back, pre-1900. A little one came across my desk today. This is about 2 minutes long, so I thought I'd throw this up for your consideration. I think this came from Paris in the 1920s. Have a look.
Did you know there was an electric moving sidewalk 123 years ago at the World's Fair in Paris, stretching 543 acres along the Seine River? The grounds of the 1900 Exposition Universelle were the biggest in history. And just like all the other World's Fairs, almost everything was destroyed afterwards, including this incredible electric moving sidewalk. It was elevated above the street on a 23-foot tall iron viaduct and consisted of 3 sections. One was stationary while the other ones moved continuously at 3 miles per hour and 6 miles per hour. The 2.5-mile loop was constructed around the perimeter of the central square. Using the 6 miles per hour walkway allowed visitors to circumnavigate the square in roughly 25 minutes, all while standing still and sightseeing. The predecessor of this walkway was at an earlier Chicago World's Fair. Along the same route but moving in the opposite direction was an elevated railway system that visitors could use to get around more quickly. However, that electric walkway could accommodate up to 14,000 people at one time. On its busiest day, it carried 70,000 people in one afternoon. The gigantic scale of the exposition made it virtually impossible to see everything, which is why the Rue de l'Avenir was so popular. It was both convenient and entertaining. One visitor described it as a giant wooden snake with its tail in its mouth. At Ouroboros of Paris, we're told that this structure was only temporary, but it had iron foundations just like the Eiffel Tower, and many other masterpieces of architecture that were destroyed. Even the Eiffel Tower was supposed to be demolished. Most of these things would probably still be standing today, and would be iconic landmarks like the Eiffel Tower turned out to be. These events are the plot holes of history. You really have to ask yourself, why would they destroy such amazing things? And why is it the same story all over the world?
Wild, hey? That's Paris, 1923, the world's, I suppose the World's Fair. We don't really have a World Fair anymore. Expo 88, I guess that was the upscaled World's Fair. America hasn't had World's Fairs in a long time. And interestingly, after all those big World's Fairs, particularly ones in the 1800s, like was said in that TikTok, everything was destroyed. Everything was destroyed. How long would it have taken to build, that walkway, those gantries, that train system, that elevated rail system, for an event that lasted a year. One would think it would have taken a couple of years, but tear it down, probably did so in 6 months or so. So there's so much that's been taken from us, so much that's been hidden, so much that's been deliberately obscured and forgotten. It's very exciting to go and find some out. If you are new to the Voice of Freedom, there are a few things you could probably go and check out in this regard. Our Tartarian history is an interesting one. And thank you to Rachel, who sent me through, and I'll have to suck them down so I can play them for you. Rachel has sent me through some video, well, I think there's still pictures in a video, of an excavation found in Australia that shows, well, shall I just say it has a startling resemblance to a Stargate. And this is something that was certainly dug up in the Northern Territory or way out back. And I would suggest it's probably exactly where it is, under, near, or around a certain mountain in the Northern Territory. But that'll be something we'll talk about again on another night. Yeah, Expo 88. So same waste. Yeah, that whole site, though, was redeveloped into what is now South Bank. And some have said that that redevelopment wouldn't have happened without Expo 88. Well, be that as it may. Expo 88 had a lot of temporary buildings. I think the only building that's still there would be the piazza from the original. I'm not even sure that the piazza was there. I never made it to Expo 88, unfortunately. I was busy trying to get my wife pregnant at the time, and we were living in Victoria. So it never happened. But I'm not sure. Yeah, I'm not sure the piazza was there during Expo. There was a concert venue. However, what sort of technology were they showcasing back then, and where are we today? I know many of you probably went to Expo 88, particularly if you were Brisbaneites or Queenslanders or Northern New South Welshmen. It was one of those shows that was you could go to again and again and again and see something new every different time. So what sort of stuff did you see back in 1988 that was going to be our future, and how much of it do you actually see or use today? Thank you, Ads. Yeah, sorry, I'm reading things. Yeah, so I think it'll be an interesting thing if we can. Look, I can't talk and read at the same time. I apologize. I see Darren Bergwerf is in the building, so he puts me off every time. As soon as I think of him, I think of a great big beard and a cold beer. It's a bit weird. The Ship Inn. Yep, that's the place. Thank you to the Aussie Patriot. Very good. The Ship Inn's not a bad place indeed. And that was there for South Bank. You're right, the Ship Inn. And there might be one or two other of the buildings there, but they'll be the admin buildings, that kind of thing. But for the most part, yeah, it's been cleaned out. So that sort of history, that technology, go and have a look at what Chicago had back in the 1800s. Go and have a look at the Ohio World Trades Fair, I think in I want to say it's in the 1870s, but don't hold me to that. You will see technology that we don't have today being used, and being used by people who are just walking in and saying, here, have a go on this, and they're riding around. And we're not talking scooters here. So there's plenty of interesting real history that isn't made up, that has just been obscured, has been hidden. The reason that they tear these huge buildings, these huge structures down, is because they are forgotten in a generation. So if you don't talk about and have some, longevity out of those structures or the reason that they were there, then within a generation, the memory of the fact that they were there in the first place is gone. So it has been easy within 1 or 2 generations to hide our history from us. And I'm finding it very interesting at the moment. If you are looking on various different platform pay TV platforms. The binges, the Amazon Primes, the Netflixes of the world, if you're still watching Netflix. There are shall I say, plethora of stories being told about the people rising up, the people having, a great injustice done against them and having their eyes opened to the fact they've been conned for so long. There is a series on, I want to say it's on Prime, called The Wheel of Time. Now, I've only read some bits and pieces about this, but my housemate Sharon has read all 14 books, and we had a conversation about it yesterday. The Wheel of Time revolves, and it runs just long enough so that you forget everything about your previous life when your turn comes around to have another life. There are some the reason I mention it is there are some very interesting spiritual aspects in that and many of these other programs that are widely being supported by people today in the freedom movement, widely being touted, the same sorts of principles, widely being touted by people in touch with extraterrestrial forces, higher beings, higher learning, those trying to educate us about lifting our vibration and lifting our awareness, lifting our awake level, and trying to generally ascend into a better form of life. And to do that, well, we know we've got a lot of work ahead of us, but we've taken the first step. Our eyes are open. And as long as we're honest with each other, and more particularly honest with ourselves, because I think that's key. If you can't be honest with yourself, then it's very difficult to be honest with everybody else. And I can speak from personal experience. If you are lying to yourself, you are probably very convinced of your lies. And that's all well and good to be convinced of them yourself, but you can't do much with that. So instead of going down that road, go the other way. Be 100% honest. And from that honesty, we all grow. We will all grow. Greed is another subject we're going to need to touch on. There's some interesting tests that have been done on people regarding greed. And in fact, I heard a very interesting interview today with a fellow who I think is based on the Gold Coast from memory. He is known as the Coffin Confessor and runs a great business. He turns up at your funeral and tells the family exactly what you thought of them, or exactly what they won't be getting in the will, or what deep, dark family secret you'd been hiding all your life that you wanted the family to know. And this bloke runs a great business out of it. He gets up to $10,000 per job and has 14,500 jobs lined up ready to go. I'm a little confused about what happens if he dies, before the person dies, but it's all to do with doing a video, apparently. So, the Coffin Confessor, I don't know how I got onto that. Interesting. I guess it's all about being honest, isn't it? So that's what I was talking about, trying to be honest, getting your honesty out. Don't be a coffin confessor. There's no need for us to. I suppose there are certain needs to keep secrets at the moment, but eventually the greed, the secrecy, all has to end. We have to be open and honest with everybody. And there'll be differences, but we can work around those. Doesn't mean you've got to punch on. Doesn't mean you've got to threaten. Doesn't mean you've got to argue. Doesn't mean you've got to carry on like a bloody pork chop, like some trolls that I know, Owen. There is just no point. There's no point. You can carry on like a blowfly trapped in a beer bottle. You will have exactly the same effect. A lot of noise, and hopefully you'll knock yourself out on the glass. But you'll have no effect on what happens in the rest of the world. calmly approaching this, joining with groups like My Place, linking together, learning, understanding how we grow and where our strengths are, how we support each other at a local level, at a community, township, regional level, at a suburb, state, city level. When we start thinking about our country cousins as much as our country cousins might think about us, then we're all going to be doing better. We've just got to think about others more than we think about ourselves. Don't reach for the greed. Don't reach for the greed. We have to lift our game in that regard. Think of others at times, and try and help where we can. That doesn't mean you've got to disadvantage yourself. Just be honest, help where you can, and if you can't, be honest with that too. But be prepared to assist in whatever way you can help. Lifting somebody's vibration, I find to be one of the most joyous things I do, and I didn't realize that I do it until somebody told me that's exactly what I do at one of these meets that I turned up at. We spoke for maybe 5 or 10 minutes, and there was a group of maybe 4 or 5 people, and at the end of it, they all said they felt uplifted, their vibration level had been raised simply because of some of the things I'd been saying. That was never a plan, but if that happens, if what I say to you uplifts you, then I get immense gratification out of that. If it gives you some level, measure of support and hope, then I hope, and with all my heart, that you're not clinging to that hope as the be all and end all, because as I always say too, do your own research. You don't have to believe what I believe. I'm happy for you to believe something else, and if I ask you about it, I really hope you can explain it to me, because I'll do my best to explain what I believe to you if you ask me, in a polite fashion, trolls, not screaming, ranting and raving like a blowfly trapped in a beer bottle. So yeah, covered a lot of random shit tonight, folks, and my page of notes, which you can sort of half see there, has scribble and scrawl written all over it. I think I've covered most of the bits on that. There is another page underneath it, and I can't read my own handwriting. I wrote it so fast today. There is news on the way shortly about our new radio station that I'm telling you about. If you like your music from the 60s, 70s, 80s, 90s, noughties, and you've got a favorite, then send it to us. Request at vofhq.com, and I will start compiling that list. I will guess to you sooner rather than later we will be online with the radio station. We've just got to cover a few costs first, and then set the thing up on the server. There is a small matter of uploading a library into that cloud server. That might take a little while, and once that's done, we will be off. And trust me, you'll be able to hear the truth on this radio station, and I will also be able to give you the opportunity to call in and be part of it. So call it talkback, just call it ringing in, leave a message and me playing it back if that's what it turns out to be, if I'm not around. But we will be putting together much more programming that has your involvement, your input. Want to hear what you say. And if you don't agree, want to hear that too. Absolutely. Don't just ring up, shout, I don't agree, though, because you will be asked to state why you don't agree and the reasons for it and what's your evidence for not agreeing. But very keen to have people on the other side, and I should put the offer out to Cooker Watch again, I suppose. That might be a format for her to come on and have a chat. I don't know. We'll have to wait and see. Don't think she's talking to me at the moment. I haven't seen much of her in a while. That's not an encouragement. Let's keep it to ourselves, shall we? Just having a quick squeeze up the Brett. Look, you're not the only one person thinking that one, mate. But I really do believe the medbed technology is already in the country. I can't say that I've seen it. I don't know anybody who's been through it. I've heard, second and third hand stories of people who have apparently been through it. But I'm a bit like you. I'm not pinning my hopes to any of that. When it comes, I'll nod my head and say, yeah, well, that was expected. When it doesn't come, that's when I'll start asking, harder questions. But at the end of the day, who do you ask those questions of, mate? Who do I chase up to say, where are the med beds? So, Q. So, yeah, let's temper our excitement with the technology that supposedly is coming, with the knowledge that if it comes, our lives will change significantly for the better, and our lifespan is going to become significantly longer in this lifetime. That's my understanding of the medbed technology. If you want it to. My understanding of it is you will only get 4 bites of the medbed technology cherry. Your body won't be able to withstand more than that. It comes down to a total time spent in the medbed rather than 4 or 5 times or whatever. So you might find, my understanding once again is, say there was a significant brain injury, and that brain injury could be cured along with, let's say it was a car accident. So there were broken bones, internal organs ruptured, lots of damage. That body can be repaired, but it might take 14, 15, 20 hours in a med bed to fix it. My understanding is that if that were the case, if let's say it took 20 hours, that for the rest of your life, you would only have between 10 and 20 hours of medbed time left available to you. So that if later in life you caught some horrible cancer, it wasn't detected because you didn't go to the doctor very often and get a scan at all until you got sick. It wasn't detected until it was stage 4 and you were riddled with it. That might mean that you need another 4 or 5 or 6 hours in a med bed. Once you've reached the limit of your hours, your body can't handle it anymore. And that's where people who want to have a regeneration cycle done, which basically means it'll take 30 years off your life, or add 30 years to your life, but it'll remove, make your body go back 30 or 40 years, regenerate you in that way. You can only do that once. And my understanding is that if you've had a lot of medbed time prior to that regeneration, you will not have enough hours left to live through the regeneration process. So there is an element of care to be taken in your life that you don't wind up early giving yourself a major injury that means you need to spend a lot of time in a med bed to stay alive. And later in life, you copper another disease that takes a few more hours out of your med bed time. And then when you get to 70 and things are starting to get a bit creaky and a bit groany and whatnot, you say, look, regenerate me. They'll go and look at their files and say, look, the regeneration program's 17 hours and you've got 8 left before the machine starts doing damage to you. So I'm sorry, we can't regenerate you. So there you go. That's probably going to spoil your day a bit. But who knows? By the time we get to there, the advances in technology, could be any age. Who knows? It might all never happen too, but it could prove to be an interesting story. And I'm desperately happy and hopeful that that kind of stuff does come forward. But like I say, I've seen no actual proof outside of what I believe to be AI-generated imagery or imagery that has come from sci-fi movies, offsets. There is some imagery that I have seen. Well, I would put it down as probably the most realistic idea of what I've seen. And I think I've shared that with you. There are 2 different med beds that I've shared that I do believe are the sorts of things we're going to see. And I just want to see them soon. I want to see them now. There are so many people who are having such crisis in their lives after accepting, for whatever reason, the jab. And those folks are dropping like flies. I see Dr. Peter McCulloch has said that he has found a detox system for that. I will grab the link for that and post that up maybe in the next show. I haven't looked at the video. He did go through it in some detail and does suggest that detoxing is a good thing. There are some interesting things coming up just before we go. Tonight I've gone a little longer than normal after starting late. Apologies again. John Wilson and I will be attending a event out near Toogoolawah on the 24th of September. It's happening at the Mount Beppo Hall. That's BEPPO. The Mount Beppo Hall, I think, gets underway from about 10 o'clock. It's a Sunday morning. If you would like to come out and be part of that, all good. It's got there's going to be a lot of interesting speakers there. The main reason for this event will be a discussion of the high tension power lines that are being run through landholders' properties after a new hydro project that's being installed further up near Kilkeevan in the Brisbane Valley. A 2-dam system, an upper and lower dam system, providing a hydroelectric power supply, I guess, heading straight out to the mines, but using these very high high tension power lines, sending that out, and the effects that is having on the people already who have those lines running through their properties and around their houses. So that'll be one of the topics that's covered. I think David Nixon is also going to be presenting what he's found underneath a microscope in a variety of different things that they're sticking into us, not just the juicy jab, but many other things that they're telling us are good for us. And there'll be some other speakers there for that as well. So that's the 24th of September coming up in Toogoolawah, well, not Toogoolawah, the Mount Beppo Hall. So it's out near Toogoolawah. If you are a parachutist at all, Toogoolawah will be known to you. Toogoolawah is the very famous home for the biggest parachute jumps, I think, that happen in Australia. I have a big festival out there every year, and group jumps with, I want to say, over 100 or more divers doing all sorts of patterns in the sky. And as far as I'm aware, they're not spraying us as they're coming down. Just saying, as far as I'm aware. All right, folks, I'm going to love you and leave you tonight. I've talked far too much, but thank you for your indulgence and for being a bit late tonight. I'll hopefully be on time tomorrow night. And hopefully Cass Smith will join us. We'll just see how her hand's going, but we'll have a bit of a chat about what's going on in the finance world at the moment, because don't take my word for it, go and have a bit of a look at the markets. And if you're not already at least dipping your toe into the precious metals market, can I please give you one piece of advice? Go to ainslieBullion.com.au, take $23 or $41 and buy a half or a 1 ounce coin of silver. They'll send it to you. Start your collection. I think sooner rather than later, that $23 or $42 investment could return you in ways you wouldn't imagine. And if you can do that once a week, you're going to be in a very good spot going forward. That would just be my piece of advice. It's just the kind of thing that I tell my own daughter. And as I said, for Father's Day yesterday, I gave up a steak and asked her to go and buy a coin. So let's do that. And if you can help support Ainsley Bullion, they support the freedom movement, and they'll look after you. Just email me, carl@vofhq.com, or you can email goldandsilver@vofhq.com, and or you just go to ainslieBullion.com.au. Let them know that the Voice of Freedom sent you, and give them a wink. They might look after you. Be safe on the roads, folks. There's a lot of dickheads out there. I'm about to be on there too.
You let one ant stand up to us, then they all might stand up. Those puny little ants outnumber us 100 to 1. And if they ever figure that out, there goes our way of life. It's not about food. It's about keeping those ants in line. That's why we're going back. Does anybody else want to stay? Let's roll!